The following video is one in a series on spiritual resilience training, a non-religious view of personal values and their dynamics with others. The contents reflect a variety of principles and practices of systems theory and relational counseling for team building and family resilience. Although the series is intended to support Army Corps values, each video also encourages the viewer to reflect on their current prominent values in specific situations and to consider what values may be more appropriate to means and results that are honorable and helpful with others. Chaplain Dillard initiates creating and posting these videos. Their contents and YouTube's linked videos do not necessarily reflect specific beliefs, practices, requirements, or endorsements of the Department of Defense, its subordinate organizations, or other groups with which Chaplain Dillard is affiliated.
Welcome back. This is the second in a series on team building, dealing with decades, distance, and digits. Last week we looked at some of the challenges of long-term relationships over the years. This week we're going to look at some more specific answers to how to build that relationship. In order to have positive, lasting change, there is a requirement for at least 5 dynamics. And you can think of this like fighting any kind of battle, a literal battle or a battle for communication or a battle for greater understanding, anything that you would name. First, we've got to have a good goal. It needs to be honorable, clear, realistic, and inspiring for their buy-in right now and for our benefit later. Now let's talk about some of these specific things. The goal has got to be honorable. In other words, it has to be something that even when it costs you and the team later, you're still willing to pursue it because it is inherently, intrinsically valuable. It also needs to be clearly articulated so there's no question about what it is that you're working toward. Everybody agrees you're on the same page. If you think about that goal like, let's say, traveling to a certain city. We're going to go to Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, if one person thinks you're going to Charlottesville, Virginia, and somebody else thinks that you're going to Columbia, South Carolina, those are both in the southeast, but they're not the same place. So in order to get to the same goal, we've got to clearly articulate to each other and understand what that goal is. It needs to be realistic. Even if it's honorable, even if it's clear, if it's not a realistic goal, it doesn't matter because we're not going to be able to accomplish it. That might mean lowering some of our expectations. If the goal is to run a 10K as your family and everybody is excited about it, but you got a family member or two that's never done it or doesn't like to run or is struggling with being significantly overweight, it's not realistic. The goal also has to be inspiring for buy-in now and for benefit later. It has to motivate people. Sometimes that can just mean the way that we phrase it. The way we communicate it so that they are inspired to want to pursue it. And it has to be a good enough goal that they will uphold it and maintain it for benefit later, because there might not be immediate short-term benefits. Some of the most worthy goals are long-term goals, saving for a car, trying to achieve a major program or service at work, looking to make the playoffs in a team that can take a whole season. The next dynamic is there need to be existing basics on the team. These are just some examples: respect, passion, knowledge, skills, devotion. You need to look at the basics that are required to get you there. Are those on the team? If they're not, you might need to somehow make them a part of the team through training, funding, time, maybe increasing the team, education. There's a lot of different ways that you can build basics onto the team, but you kind of need to do an inventory. What is it going to take to get us there? Not just external resources, although those are some of the resources, but internal resources too. We also need an appropriate structure. In other words, individuals' roles and the team's rules need to fit the goal. Now in government we talk about dictatorships and democracy and free reign, where everybody kind of does what they want. I call that chaos. But those are different types of structures. Sometimes there's a hierarchy of leadership. Sometimes there's delegation. Sometimes there's collaboration where people work together in teams. Sometimes it's very flat, sometimes it's very hierarchical, but we need to ask, what is the best structure to fit our goal? And that will have to be intentional. Now, you might have grown up in a family that normally acted in one structure. That doesn't necessarily mean that structure is going to work for your current family or your current job. You need to look at what works for this group and this goal. Sometimes that can simply mean taking a look at other groups who have done this well. What structure did they use? Sometimes it can mean kind of polling and discussing among the group what is working well for us, what's not working well, how might some structural changes help to achieve that. Now, sometimes a structure is imposed upon you because of the nature of your work, the supervisors above you, a strong patriarch or matriarch in the family. If that's the case, you need to find out, even within that structure that is imposed on you, how can you work under that in your own structure that doesn't go against it, but somehow works within it in ways that best fit your goal. For example, your basketball coach might say, we are going to play by these rules, these are the rules of basketball, but you can decide if you want to do a zone defense or man-on-man. There also needs to be a level of freedom. Think about your group as members of a physical body. Their objectives and abilities and styles may differ, but the goal is the same. I cannot expect my hands to function like my feet. Now, I can walk on my hands with some training, but I can't do it nearly as well as I can with my feet. I can learn to write with my feet. I've seen people do it, but it's not nearly as efficient because I've already got the skills to do that with my hands. So take a look at your team. If that is your work team, if that's your family, if that's a leisure group, whatever it is, who does what well? Who needs a little bit of freedom to do that well? Who needs some freedom to make some mistakes so they can grow? Who needs some freedom to spend more time with people, coaching or mentoring them, or being coached or being mentored by somebody else? If we box people in by our preference or our history of understanding of what works or our way of thinking, then we are limiting them to our understanding and our skills and our experience. And the old saying, two heads are better than one, well, two histories of experience, two sets of skills, three minds, four hearts. The more people in your group, the more they bring to the table to accomplish your group goals. So they need to have some level of freedom. One of the things that we need to make sure we incorporate is short-term rewards, like personal feedback, public recognition, and practical incentives. Let's take each one of those one at a time. First of all, personal feedback, and I chose these descriptors intentionally. Personal feedback, not how would I or you want to receive feedback, but how do they want to receive it? Do they want a verbal affirmation they're doing well? Would they prefer to receive a handshake, high five, a smile, an email, a post-it note? Always related to how it's helping to accomplish the goal of the team, not just random feedback, positive feedback for the sake of feedback, but something that is, number one, personal that they would appreciate, and number two, related to forward motion or forward movement toward the goal. Now, public recognition, that's slightly different. Personal feedback can be private, in the person's office, in the living room, to your kid on the baseball field, to somebody playing third base or whatever. But public recognition is necessarily in front of other members of the team. It can be very powerful to compliment somebody formally or informally in front of their peers. It has several benefits. One, we tend to repeat good behaviors for which we are rewarded. Number two, if it's done in front of our peers or their peers, it shows others what right looks like. But it's also more powerful. It's saying to this person, they did something well for the team, and I want everybody to know about it. I'm not just proud of them, I'm proud of them for the whole team, because as the leader I'm representing the family or the office or the sporting team or what have you. Thirdly, practical incentives. Not everything that motivates you or I necessarily motivates other people. A sixth dynamic that's important to incorporate for team building, especially over the long haul, is support in setbacks. Again, it's like members of a body, a physical body. We simply have to help each other. If I turn my ankle and I'm on crutches, then my arms have to do more of that load bearing or weight bearing for the rest of my body. If I've got a crick in my neck and I can't carry some things in my right arm or right hand as much, my left hand and my left arm are going to have to do more. Similarly, there will be times when members of our team will be weaker than previous times. Whether that setback is a weakness or a mistake or a failure, we need to support them in getting through that. Now, let's take that to an extreme. If a member of my body, be it my arm or leg or ear or whatever, failed me, so to speak, what if I just cut it off? That's ridiculous, right? We would take care of ourselves. Why? Because the members of the body are part of the whole body. So we simply need to help each other out, especially in long-term relationships, because how we treat that individual member of the body will come back either to bless us or haunt us and the rest of the members of the team. So it's just wisdom and good common sense to take care of each other in times of setback. Lastly, we need to make sure that we have committed leaders, people who are sacrificial, who inspire us, direct us, and enable the success of the team and all the members of the team. It's one thing to manage a team, to make sure that tasks get done. It's something entirely different to motivate people so that they want to accomplish the goals of the team. Some of that is about character, that they are honest, that they're inspiring, that they are forward-looking. Some of that is about competence, that they have these skills, knowledge, and experience to get the job done. But we need to grow in both. Hope you find that helpful, and I'll see you next time when we look at the challenge of team building over distance, when we are geographically displaced for different reasons. And I hope to see you then.
At the release date of this video, I am stationed with Research Development and Engineering Command, RDECOM, at Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. Because the majority of our personnel are in this area, I spend most of my time here. I do, however, travel to our distant units based on command priorities and budget. I place these videos on YouTube for broad visibility to Army personnel and their families, but I hope the videos will be helpful to others too. If you are assigned to RDECOM and want to request specific topics by video, training on site or by VTC, or confidential counseling on site or by secure webcam, you can contact me at jeffrey.d.dillard.mil@mail.mil.